Welcome to Discover Daily by Perplexity, an AI-generated show on tech, science, and culture. I'm Alex.
And I'm Sienna. Today we're exploring China's remarkable achievement in renewable energy, surpassing its 2030 target nearly 6 years ahead of schedule. We'll dive into what this means for global climate efforts and energy markets. But first, let's look at what else is happening across the tech and policy landscape.
Anthropic, the company behind AI assistant Claude, has taken a bold step towards transparency by publishing the system prompts used to guide Claude's behavior. This unprecedented move offers a rare glimpse into how large language models are instructed and constrained. The release covers prompts for 3 models: Claude 3.5 Sonnet, Claude 3 Opus, and Claude 3 Haiku. Each model has specific instructions on behavior, capabilities, and limitations. For instance, Claude 3.5 Sonnet is directed to handle controversial topics carefully without labeling them as sensitive, while all models are instructed to avoid facial recognition or naming individuals in images. The prompt explicitly states, "Always respond as if you are completely face-blind," as a way to address privacy concerns and potential biases in image recognition. The prompts also reveal specific behavioral guidelines. For example, Claude is instructed to avoid unnecessary affirmations like "certainly" at the beginning of responses. When tackling math and logic problems, the AI is directed to think through the problem step by step before stating a final answer. Anthropic's decision to publicly release Claude's system prompts represents an unprecedented level of transparency in the AI industry, surpassing the efforts of competitors like OpenAI and other LLM makers who typically keep such information confidential, potentially setting a new standard for openness in AI development and prompting discussions about ethical AI practices. In labor news, Australia has implemented a right to disconnect law. This legislation grants employees the legal right to refuse work-related communications outside of contracted hours, aiming to improve work-life balance in the digital age. The law allows employees to decline contact outside work hours unless deemed reasonable, with factors such as role, reason for contact, and compensation for additional availability determining reasonableness. It applies immediately to most businesses, with small companies given until August 2025 to comply. This legislation addresses Australia's culture of excessive working hours, where employees often perform an average of 5.4 hours of unpaid overtime weekly. Research indicates that over 70% of workers in companies with similar policies in Europe reported positive impacts on well-being and work satisfaction. France pioneered this concept in 2017, requiring companies with more than 50 employees to negotiate specific rules about when work should stop. The French law doesn't impose strict universal rules, but instead encourages companies to find solutions that fit their needs. Since implementation, France hasn't seen significant negative economic impacts. GDP growth remained relatively stable, averaging around 1.5% annually from 2017 to 2019 before the pandemic. However, changing workplace culture has been a gradual process, with full implementation and cultural adaptation taking years. Other countries have followed suit. Belgium, Italy, Spain, and Ireland have implemented similar laws, each with their own nuances. For instance, Ireland's Code of Practice came into effect in April 2024, giving employees the right to disengage from work and refrain from routinely performing work outside normal working hours. In the United States, the movement is gaining traction, but progress is slower. There are currently no federal or state laws explicitly establishing the right to disconnect. Some states, including California and Washington, have proposed bills, but these have not yet been passed into law. In 2018, New York City Council members introduced a bill on private employees disconnecting from electronic communications during non-work hours, but it hasn't progressed significantly since 2021. Now to Siena for some progress in global climate efforts.
In a remarkable achievement, China is reporting it has surpassed President Xi Jinping's target for wind and solar capacity nearly 6 years ahead of schedule. This achievement significantly outpaces other countries in clean energy investment and deployment. According to the Global Energy Monitor, in July 2024, China's total wind and solar capacity reached 1,206 gigawatts, exceeding the goal of 1,200 gigawatts set for 2030. China's renewable energy capacity now significantly outpaces that of other nations. For comparison, the United States had a total solar and wind capacity of just 244 gigawatts at the end of 2023. As reported by the U.S. Energy Information Administration. This rapid expansion was fueled by the country's massive investment in renewable energy infrastructure. The National Energy Administration of China reports that in May 2024, non-fossil fuel sources accounted for a record high of 44% of China's electricity production, with solar contributing 12% and wind 11%. This record-high percentage of clean energy generation resulted in coal's share dropping to a record low of 53% in May 2024, according to an analysis from Carbon Brief. But while China's numbers are impressive, the country remains the world's largest emitter of carbon dioxide, responsible for about 35% of global emissions in 2023, according to the International Energy Agency. The country's 2023 carbon dioxide emissions were 15% higher than all other developed countries combined. Looking ahead, China faces the challenge of balancing its growing energy needs with its climate commitments. The country's 14th five-year plan from 2021 to 2025 sets targets for reducing energy intensity and carbon intensity of the economy. But critics argue that these goals may not be ambitious enough to align with global climate objectives.
That's it for today. Thanks for tuning in to Discover Daily by Perplexity. We invite you to subscribe on your favorite platform to stay updated on the latest in tech, science, and culture. For more information on the stories we covered today, check out the episode description. And don't forget, the Perplexity app is available on both Android and iOS, putting the power of AI-assisted research right at your fingertips. We'll be back here tomorrow with more stories that matter. Until then, stay curious.